Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and let me be the first to say that this looks like shit. Today we're going to talk about how to maximize the dynamic range of your digital sensor, in this case the Nikon ZR. Now this does look terrible on purpose because we're going to do a little demonstration here. We're shooting in NRAW in 4K, and this is just the stock Rec. 709 LUT, and you can see that the window behind me is pretty much completely blown out. We are shooting at an f2.8 and there is no lighting inside of my apartment here. So this is just natural light coming through and kind of hitting the side of my face. Now I'm somewhat exposed, but in order to get some decent exposure on me, we have to completely blow out that window. So how do we fix that? How do we get more dynamic range out of our sensors? Now the Nikon ZR has caught some, in my opinion, unwarranted flack for its dynamic range. I think it has more than enough. I've put it in a lot of different scenarios and it handles highlights and shadows very well, especially its highlight roll-off. I would happily take a camera that has maybe one stop less in the highlights but a better roll-off than something like, dare I say, the Canon C50, which has a little bit more range in the highlights, but it clips very fast and gives kind of a digital feel to my eye. But in this case, we are really stress testing the sensor. So we are purposely blowing out the highlights behind me, which every camera, even an Alexa, is capable of. So with just how we're shooting right now, let's see how much detail we can recover from these highlights. I'm going to use the Rec. 709 LUT we have right now and do a quick grade to see what information we can bring back. There we have it. So it did actually recover some information, which really speaks to the range that the ZR actually has. But it's still blowing out and it's still kind of ugly looking. Well, there is something we can do to sort of increase the perceived dynamic range of the Nikon ZR. I'm sorry to say it's not a setting in the camera, there's no boost mode or anything like that. The answer is lighting. Now I'm sorry if I kind of tricked you guys into learning something about cinematography here, but lighting is one of the most important parts of our job, if not the most important. Every single camera is gonna have its limitations. It's our responsibility to learn the range of our camera and to learn lighting, so we can maximize the increased range of the image. Let's say we still kind of want to keep the general look. We still want a nice soft wrap around my face and we want it to look like this is naturally lit, but we want to be able to see outside the window behind me. What we want to do is increase the ambient light inside of the room, and for that we use lights. Now if you have powerful enough lights, sometimes DPs will just literally bounce light into the ceiling and it will raise the entire ambient level inside of the room. And then you can kind of adjust your key light to taste. In this scenario, we're just going to be using a key light, which is my Amaran 200D with a 5-foot softbox on it. You want to make sure you have enough power, not necessarily to match the outside, but at least to fit within the range of the camera. So if I'm exposing for around middle gray on my face, I want to make sure that the outside window is no more than 4 or at most 5 stops over my key light. That will fit within the dynamic range of the Nikon ZR, and I know that I can pull that information out in post. And then last, you want to add neutral density to your camera lens. Because we are raising the overall level so high, we're going to need neutral density to bring it back down. In theory, if we do all of that, I should be exposed properly and we'll be able to see outside that window and maintain the general tone of natural light that we have right now. So let's strike this light and see if it works. And there you go. Now we maintained proper exposure on my face while adding a nice wraparound to the natural light coming through the window, and we can completely see outside the window now. This is still just a stock Rec. 709 LUT. So if we bring the highlights down a little bit, we can see that there's even more information out there that we can get. This is a technique used all of the time on set, even with cameras that have a tremendous amount of dynamic range like the ARRI Alexa. We seem to live in an age of information. And I don't just mean technology, I mean information in the negative of your image. Clients and directors want to be able to see everything. So this general rule of thumb comes in handy on most sets. If you don't want to blow out any highlights, you're always going to have to add light and then bring it down with neutral density so you can have a more balanced image that fits in the container of your camera's dynamic range. And with that technique, we have essentially gained dynamic range with our camera. Now, in my opinion, you might not always want to do this. Sometimes you might want to let a window blow out, or you might want to let shadows get crushed all the way to black. Although it seems common practice now to just see all of the information in your image, I think it's up to us to be a little more intentional with our cinematography. If you look at great photographers like Roy de Carava, or great films like Seven, they are very intentional with their exposure and have no problem with letting things fall completely to black. Or films like Minority Report, which I rewatched this week. That movie has some crazy highlight situation. There's a lot of blown out windows and a lot of interesting things they use with the highlights. But if you do want to see all of the information, this is the technique to use. And it really just comes down to lighting ratios. I highly recommend you go out and get a light meter, because with a light meter, you don't even need a camera. It's a great way to read your ratios and understand how to get the type of level that you want in a scene. If you'd be interested in a video dedicated to how to use a light meter and all of the benefits that it has, leave a comment below. No matter where you are in your career, a light meter is definitely something you should know how to use. That's it for today, and I'll see you on the next one.